For 38 years, I held my tongue, but Sarah's words at my husband's funeral pushed me past my limit. I just laid to rest the man I shared my life with, and already they were trying to shove me aside too. I could have kept quiet, could have glided by the table like I didn't hear a thing, but her voice cut through clear as day. Every word she spoke dug into me, sharp and cold like a blade. I'm Emma, 62 years old, a brand new widow carved out by time's cruel hand. My Thomas passed just 2 days earlier, and our 38 years together now rested in an urn on the altar nearby. We held a small gathering after the service, roses, cucumber sandwiches, and folks in dark suits murmuring kind but fleeting words. I was by the fireplace, pouring coffee, when Sarah's voice caught my ear. Her laugh was soft, restrained, the kind that slips out when someone thinks they've got it all figured out. My daughter-in-law, always flashing a smile that never reached her eyes. Truth be told, I don't think she even realizes it. Sarah leaned in, her whisper sweet but edged like a knife, talking to another woman. She said James now holds the house and everything else in his name, and I'd need to find somewhere new to go soon. It's too big for just one person, isn't it? My grip on the coffee pot tightened. Her words drove into me like nails down my back. She doesn't even know yet, as if I were some lost stranger, not the woman who built that home alongside Thomas. James says, my own son, my flesh and blood, talking about my future like I'm in the way. Everything's in his name now, as if I had no stake, no claim to the life we created. She'll need to find a place soon. They'd decided without even a word to me. Too big for one person. Was I suddenly not worth the space? Sarah spoke so easily, without a hint of hesitation. Her tone was calm, her words tossed out like they were doing me a kindness. Then she kept on. Thomas was old-fashioned, she said. He made sure James was set. This is for the best. She needs to simplify, move on. It's time. I stood frozen, coffee steam fogging my glasses. He made sure James was set. And what about me? Did they think I'd just vanish? For the best, for who? Not me, that's for sure. She needs to simplify, a polite way of saying they wanted me gone. It's time, as if they'd been biding their time, waiting for Thomas to go so they could push me out. I glanced across the room. Sarah stood poised in her black dress, hair flawless, face untouched by tears. She hadn't shed a single one. She hadn't lifted a finger to help either. I made every call, picked every flower, set every chair. Yet there she was, playing the perfect hostess, soaking up praise. Someone told her, "You did such a lovely job," and she smiled, saying, "It's what Thomas would have wanted." I wanted to yell, to grab her and demand how she could be so heartless. Instead, I sank into a corner chair, unseen, unheard, listening. Sarah wasn't finished. She said they'd already checked out listings. James didn't want to make a fuss about it. He thinks I'd get it. It's not personal, just practical. Listings for my new, replaced life. Doesn't want to make a fuss because facing me would mean facing their actions. She'll understand because I always have, always stayed quiet. Not personal, just practical. That line shattered me. Every word felt deeply personal, each one chipping away at the life I'd built. Memories hit me hard. The first time I met Sarah, she called my dress charming, in a vintage way. I wore it because Thomas adored it. She once told me, "You raised James so well, now it's our time," like I was supposed to hand him over. She changed our traditions, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all reshaped to her taste. My recipes were too heavy, my decorations too busy. She reorganized my kitchen without asking, tossed my mugs for sleek gray ones, saying they were classier. She told James the first didn't need to be involved in big decisions to spare me stress. Each time, she nudged me back, and I let her. But the worst was James. He allowed it. He used to call me monthly, seeking advice, sharing work stories. After Sarah, weeks went by silent. When Thomas fell in the kitchen, I called James. Sarah picked up, said they were tied up. Is it serious? She asked, already irritated. They didn't come. That day shifted everything. Thomas never walked right again. Still, I kept quiet, thinking that's what love meant. But at Thomas's funeral, Sarah made her play. She wanted the house, the whole life we built. And James, my boy, stood by, letting it happen. I caught his eye as he poured more wine. He looked at me, then quickly away. That's when I knew they were planning to push me out. Thomas had warned me once, sitting in his chair one calm afternoon. If they ever try to make you feel small, the will won't let them, he said. I didn't press him then, but now I wondered. I left the room and climbed the stairs, each step heavier than the last. Our bedroom hadn't changed. Thomas's sweater still hung on the door, his slippers by the bed. It smelled of cedar and fresh linens. I sat on the bed's edge, staring out the window as rain began to fall. Downstairs, Sarah's voice carried again. Asterisk, she's had a good run. It's time for James to take charge. Take charge? I wasn't stepping aside. I wasn't finished. I wasn't ready to fade into the background of my own life. I took a deep breath. They'd made their move, and now it was mine. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on Thomas's side of the bed, staring at the ceiling, the old radiator humming in the dark. The quiet felt heavier than my grief. I wasn't just mourning Thomas, I was mourning all I'd let slide. There's a pain that doesn't shout, it just sits inside, waiting. That's what I carried now. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table Thomas built in our second year together. My fingers traced the wood's nicks from years of family dinners, school projects, birthday candles. My tea sat cold as memories flooded in. I pictured James as a boy, pulling a stool to help stir batter while Thomas teased him for stealing blueberries. I recalled Sarah's first dinner with us, her overly bright smile, barely eating. I'd made lasagna. She told James later it was too rich. He laughed when he told me, like it was no big deal. It didn't feel that way. It all rushed back, not just the funeral, but every slight. Sarah called me Emma to others but your mother to James, like I was a problem to handle. One Thanksgiving, she rearranged place cards so she and James took the table's head. I was gently moved to the window, better view she said. Each move was small, meant to seem innocent, but I felt them all, and I remembered every one. Once, after Thomas started forgetting things, Sarah suggested I consider assisted living, saying it'd be too much to handle on my own. I wasn't on my own, I was his wife, and I took care of him. I bathed him, fed him, learned to give his injections, studied his medical charts, and pushed back against doctors who tossed around jargon like mental I wouldn't get it. Sarah never stopped by, not even once. James would call now and then, but his questions were always about his dad's health, never mine. He thanked me once, but it felt like a tossed-off afterthought. When Thomas had surgery and struggled to walk, Sarah said she and James were swamped. Instead of helping, she hired some physical therapist she found online to work on his mobility. Thomas despised it. We'd chuckle about it quietly, just the two of us. One of the last times I heard his real, hearty laugh. After the funeral reception cleared out, I wandered through my house, and it felt strange, almost unrecognizable. The couch Sarah chose because ours was too shabby. The curtains she swapped out for something more contemporary. The framed family photo she picked, James, Sarah, and Thomas, but not me. She called it an artistic choice. I kept trying to convince myself I was overreacting, that maybe I was too sensitive, that families evolve and I was just getting older. But I wasn't imagining things anymore. Sarah's words at Thomas's funeral echoed in my mind, cold and clear, like I was already a ghost. She'll need to find a place soon. It's too big for one person anyway. It's what Thomas would have wanted. No, it absolutely wasn't. Thomas had told me the truth one night, his voice soft before we drifted to sleep. If they ever try to diminish you, the will won't let them. I got up and headed to his old study, to the drawer where I knew I'd find it, a black folder. The will. Years ago, we'd gone over it together. I opened it, and there it was, plain as day in legal print. James was the primary beneficiary, but there was a catch, tucked deep in the text. If anyone pressured me, neglected me, or tried to force me out of our home against my wishes, everything, every right, every asset, every piece of property, would revert to me, fully and immediately. They hadn't read it closely. They'd made their move, and in doing so, they'd tripped the one safeguard Thomas left for me. The next morning, I sat down with the lawyer. "You sure about this?" he asked, thumbing through the pages. I told him exactly what I'd overheard, every word Sarah said. I handed him the notes I'd jotted down that night, times, phrases, even who was nearby. He didn't pause after that. "Then it's active," he said. "We'll start transferring all titles and financial control back to you. By week's end, you'll have full legal ownership again." I nodded, my hands steady. The weight in my chest wasn't just grief anymore, it was something sharper, stronger. That afternoon, I sat by the front window, watching rain streak the glass. This house wasn't just walls and a roof. It's where I raised James, where I watched the seasons shift through this very window, where Thomas read his books every night for 18 years. It's where we danced in the kitchen one tired evening, the radio playing our song, neither of us caring if our steps matched. I wasn't leaving. I didn't feel triumphant or out for revenge. I felt something calmer, like I'd finally stopped needing anyone's permission to be here. The envelope arrived that morning, delivered by courier, thick and official. The lawyer had moved fast, faster than I'd expected, but maybe that was right. The clause had kicked in, and now everything Thomas and I built was legally mine again. I hadn't told them yet. I was waiting, not for a big scene, not for payback, just for the moment truth would meet action. 4 days went by. The rain kept falling, softening the edges of the neighborhood into a quiet blur. I stayed home, didn't call anyone, just sat in my house like always, but with a new clarity, a sense of belonging that wasn't about papers or deeds but about memories, about being present. Then came the knock, soft, careful, practiced. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Sarah stood on the porch, her coat buttoned neatly, her hair tucked under a knit hat. Her smile was half-formed, not quite reaching her eyes. James lingered behind her, eyes fixed somewhere else. "Hey, Emma," Sarah said, her voice bright but forced. "We were just nearby, thought we'd pop in." I stared at her, my face blank, no warmth to offer. James cleared his throat. "Wanted to see how you're holding up after the funeral. It's been a lot, you know." His words sounded rehearsed, like he was reading a script, lacking any real care. Or maybe I just saw through him now. I stepped aside to let them in, staying silent. Sarah, as always, took charge, striding to the living room and settling into Thomas's chair like it was hers. I watched her sink into it, so at ease. "We've been thinking," she started, crossing her legs. "This house is a lot for one person to manage." James and I were talking. Of course they were. "We just want what's best for you. Maybe a smaller place would be easier, cozier, simpler to keep up." I gave a small nod, not agreeing, just noting it. "There's an apartment by the river," James piped up. "Nice spot." We looked it up online. They'd already chosen it. "We could help you move," Sarah added, her voice soft like she was offering a gift. "Make it seamless. We could even take care of selling this place for you." So kind of them. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself tea, didn't offer them any. "We know the will left the house to James," Sarah called, loud enough for me to hear. "You've been here a long time, and change is tough. We understand." Her tone was polished, gentle. I came back with my tea, sat across from them, and placed the envelope on the coffee table. Sarah's eyes darted to it. I didn't say anything at first. I looked at James. "You didn't read the will," I said, my voice steady. His forehead creased. "I did. It gave everything to me." Sarah's smile stiffened. No, I said. It gave you everything, unless you tried to push me out. The room went still. I opened the envelope, slid the papers toward them. Legal text, clear as day. Proof. Sarah grabbed it, her eyes racing over the pages, flipping faster, then slower. Her fingers gripped the edges. It's real, I said. Thomas signed it. It's notarized. Filed. James leaned over her shoulder, his face draining of color. You said, he started, turning to Sarah. I didn't know, she cut in, suddenly sharp. I only saw the summary. It didn't mention this clause. You didn't bother reading it all, I told Sarah. You just assumed I had no say in this. She leaned back, her face stripped of its usual sweetness, no more playing nice. So what happens now? She asked, her voice flat, almost cold. Now, I said, you stop deciding my life for me. James sat there, silent. I turned to him. You never stood up for me, not even once. He started to speak, then stopped, his mouth closing tight. I paid for your college, your wedding, took care of your dad so you could keep your life moving. And here you were, in my own home, letting her plan to push me out. It wasn't like that, he mumbled, barely audible. It was exactly like that, I shot back. Sarah stood up, her voice sharp. What, you get to keep it all? We're left with nothing? You weren't cut out, I said. Your own words and choices did that for you. She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker in her eyes. Not panic, not guilt, just the dawning realization of consequences. You're going to disown us, she said. No, I replied. You did that to yourselves. I'm just making it official. James looked at me, not angry, not begging, just worn out. I didn't know, he whispered. But you never asked, I said. Then, without planning it, the words spilled out. James, do you remember when you were 10, so sick with the flu I stayed up 2 nights straight watching over you? Sarah had called me overbearing even then. I should have seen the signs. He blinked, caught off guard. Sarah turned her head away. And you, I said, facing her. That Thanksgiving you said you were helping by taking over, but you tossed every recipe I left out, calling them old-fashioned. I'd stayed quiet for James, for Thomas, for peace. I'd let myself fade, bit by bit. Until now. James swallowed hard, not used to this side of me. I leaned in. I paid for everything, your groceries when rent was tight, the down payment on your first place. I even covered Sarah's certification course when she wanted to be independent. And still, you both sat here, in my home, deciding I didn't belong. I took a deep breath, my hands steady, my voice calm. It reminds me of when my dad told me to move on, kicked me out with those exact words. I didn't fight back then, I had no choice. But I'm not that scared girl anymore. The room felt thick with tension. Sarah didn't speak, she couldn't. James stared at the papers again, like he hoped they'd disappear. You chose this, I said at last. Now I'm choosing too. I stood up, not to walk away, but to end the talk. You can leave now. Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, but she held back. She headed for the door. James trailed behind, but before he stepped out, he turned. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't answer. The door shut. I sat down, carefully folded the documents, and tucked them back into the envelope. Outside, the rain kept falling, but inside, for the first time in years, this place felt like my home again. They didn't call the next day, or the one after. But on the 4th morning, the quiet broke. Sarah sent a text, short and sharp, we need to talk. It's urgent. I didn't reply. Then James tried, Mom, please. Can we just talk? Still, I stayed silent. That afternoon, a car pulled up outside. It sat there for nearly 45 minutes, engine humming, then drove off. They were watching, waiting, but I wasn't hiding. The calm I felt was real, not forced. It came from knowing I'd done nothing wrong, that I'd loved, given, stayed quiet, and endured, and now I was done. By the 6th day, my phone started buzzing, not just from them, but from others. My sister-in-law, a cousin from out of state, even Sarah's dad. "Emma, what's going on? They're saying you cut them out of the will." "No," I told them. "I didn't cut anyone out. They did that themselves." Sarah was working fast to spin the story her way. On the 7th day, a letter arrived, hand-delivered, written in stiff, formal language. It demanded explanations, questioned my legal rights, suggested mediation. I read it slowly, then slipped it into a drawer. Let them scramble. Let them justify themselves. What stung, deep and quiet, was how fast Sarah jumped to damage control, not to apologize, not to understand, just to control. I thought about all I'd done for her, helping her find jobs, watching her kids when she had appointments, the gifts, the extra checks I wrote. None of it bought me her kindness. She'd treated my care like a transaction, and now that it was gone, she was mad. She couldn't use it anymore. James stayed quiet until the 8th night. My phone rang, and something told me to pick it up. "Mom," he said, his voice soft, not staged, just exhausted. "Sarah's furious. She says you've ruined everything, made her look like the bad guy." I didn't respond. "She's embarrassed," he added. "And I don't know what to do." I paused, then asked, "What did you say when she wanted to move me out?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said softly. "I didn't think it'd go this far," he said. "You mean you didn't think I'd stand up for myself?" He sighed. "No, I guess I didn't." A beat passed, then he said, "She's talking about lawyers, renegotiating. Maybe if you signed something, we could." No, the word dropped, solid and final. No more what-ifs. No more deals. You had everything, my help, my love, my home. You let it go. "I didn't mean to," he said. "But you did." There was nothing left to argue. The next morning, Sarah sent another message, longer, calculated, but still manipulative. "Emma, families hit rough spots. You're letting feelings cloud your judgment. We're ready to forgive and move past this if you'll just reconsider." Forgive. As if I was the one who'd done wrong. As if my standing my ground, refusing to vanish, was the crime. I didn't reply. That evening, my porch light clicked on, and I opened the door to see Sarah standing there, her makeup flawless but her face weary. "I just want to talk," she said, her voice softer than usual. I stepped onto the porch but didn't invite her inside. She forced a smile. "You've made your point, Emma. We're family. Don't you think this has gone far enough?" "You said this house was too big for me," I replied. "That I needed to leave." "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. "It's exactly what you meant," I countered. "You're upset, and I get it," she went on. "But James and I were just thinking practically, about money, about what made sense for the future." "You were thinking about what suited you," I said. She didn't argue. "Our business is taking a hit," she said, her voice sharpening. "We've lost clients. People are talking, saying we manipulated a grieving widow, that we schemed to take your home. It's ruining everything we've worked for." "They're not wrong," I said plainly. Her eyes flared with anger. "This is on you, Emma. You've turned everyone against us. You were supposed to be the quiet one, the one who helped." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You decided I didn't count. You only miss my silence now because it doesn't serve you anymore." "Emma, please," she snapped, her voice breaking. "You're tearing this family apart." "I gave you everything," I said. "And when I needed one thing, to grieve in my own home, you tried to take it away." Sarah looked down, her voice quieter now. "I didn't think you'd push back." I know, I said. That's why you're standing here now, empty-handed. Her eyes shimmered, but no tears came. Maybe they weren't real, or maybe she'd cried them all out over things she couldn't control anymore. I was good to you, she whispered. No, I said. You used me when it was convenient. That's not the same. I took a slow breath. You know, I canceled a 35th anniversary trip with Thomas because you called, sobbing, saying you and James were fighting. I sat with you for 3 hours while you blamed him, then me, then asked for money. You never said thank you, and I never mentioned it. I paused, steady. You called me too sensitive, too involved. You smirked at my clothes behind my back, told James the first was clingy. I stayed quiet to keep the peace. Her face twisted, and her voice broke. You're not the victim here, Emma. You're bitter, trying to control us. You've been waiting to punish us. I didn't answer. She was wrong. I wasn't punishing them, I was just done playing the role they'd cast me in. A week later, something unexpected happened. James showed up alone, no call, no text, just a knock at the door. He looked worn, older, like the weight of their actions had finally settled on him. He stood there for a long moment before I opened the door. In that instant, he wasn't the man Sarah had shaped, he was the little boy who'd curl up in my lap during thunderstorms. Can I come in? He asked. I nodded, not warmly, but because we needed to have this talk. He perched on the couch's edge, like he didn't deserve to settle in. I left her, he said softly. I stayed quiet, hands folded in my lap. She called me weak, said I let you humiliate her. He stared at the floor. I noticed the scuff on his shoe, just like the ones Thomas used to wear. It's not because of what she said, he went on. I left because I saw she didn't love me, she loved what she could get through me. The way she talked about you made me face things I'd ignored. His eyes glistened as he looked at me. I'm sorry, Mom. The words hit harder than I expected, not because I needed them, but because I never thought I'd hear them. I never stood up for you, he said. Not once. I let her twist everything, make you the problem when all you did was take care of us. I let the silence stretch between us. You let her speak for you, I said at last. For years. He nodded. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I just had to say it. We sat there, no yelling, no tears, just truth laid bare. Then he did something I didn't see coming. He reached into his coat and pulled out an old photo of me and Thomas at a picnic, years ago. He set it on the coffee table. Sarah hated this picture, he said with a quiet chuckle. Said it made her feel like she'd never measure up. But I always loved it. You look so happy. I said, before I started giving pieces of myself away. He stood. You don't owe me anything. But I'd like to visit sometime, if that's okay. I nodded, not out of sentiment, but understanding. He left as quietly as he'd come. I watched him go through the window, alone, no Sarah, no fanfare, just a man starting over. That night, I sat in my kitchen, rereading the lawyer's letter. The estate was mine, the accounts, the property, the titles. But more than that, I'd reclaimed something else, something I hadn't felt in years, my voice. They tried to erase me, to treat me like a problem to solve, but I held my ground, and they lost. I thought about the small slights that piled up. Sarah taking over birthdays, deciding the guest list. James letting her pick who saw family photos, her saying, let's keep the old stories brief at dinner to stay on track. She meant my stories. James never stopped her. I remembered cleaning the attic one day when Sarah walked in and said, why not donate this stuff? No one cares about it anymore. It was Thomas's box of love letters to me from when we were young. That box still sits in my bedroom, safe, untouched. The next few weeks were calm, almost serene. I cleared out the guest room, sorted Sarah's storage bins, and boxed them neatly. I sent a notice that their things would be donated by month's end if they didn't pick them up. No response came. Neighbors started to change too. A woman from a few houses down, someone I barely knew, dropped off muffins. "I always wondered how you stayed so steady with all that going on," she said. "You're stronger than most." I thanked her, and we shared tea, a simple, warm hour. I brought the house back to life. The old curtains went up again. I swapped Sarah's sleek dining table for Thomas's heavy oak one. I found the family photo she'd tucked away and hung it in the hallway. One rainy evening, I stood in the living room and just breathed. Nothing big happened. But I felt it, peace. Not relief, not triumph, just peace. One afternoon, a plain envelope arrived, no return address, just my name scrawled on the front. Inside was a simple card with a brief note: "I watched how you stood your ground. I wish I'd had the courage to do the same with my daughter. You showed me it's okay to stop staying quiet. Thank you." No signature, just those heartfelt words. I sat at my kitchen table, the card in my hands, for a long while. Someone out there had seen me, had understood what it took. Sarah faded away after that. No more calls, no more texts, no more attempts to sway me. James, though, started coming around, tentative at first, like he was testing the waters. One Saturday, he showed up to mend a wobbly fence post. Another time, he dropped off a container of soup when a cold had me down. He didn't beg for forgiveness or make grand promises. He just showed up. It wasn't the closeness we once had, but it was a start, something real. On what would have been our 39th anniversary, I set a candle next to Thomas's picture. I didn't shed tears or say much. I just sat there, quiet, feeling his presence. "I kept my word," I murmured. "They tried to push me out, but I remembered who I am." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and the rain started again, a fresh layer over the past. Inside, my home was still, peaceful. For the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't lonely. I was alone, but I was complete. If you've ever felt like you don't fit, like your place in the world's been questioned, know this: you're not the only one.